Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town ran on Space Cadet Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, folks of all stripes, and distinguished guests, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar
welcome
Jr.
back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for diehard Houston sports fans from a diehard Houston sports fan. I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite diehard Astros fan podcaster. I'm an actor, improviser, writer, creative multi-hyphenate, and of course, I'm a proud Houston native and I have the receipts to prove it. I'm still tipping on 4-4s to this day. I've spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer in LA, and now, well, I'm podcasting. That's what happens once you hit 10 years out here. You wake up one day realizing you have to moisturize because you live in a desert surrounded by the most beautiful people in the country, and you start podcasting. Welcome to said podcast. Space Cadet Sports was started as a passion project because most media is infuriating as a die-hard long-term fan of the Houston Astros and your Houston teams in general. Here, we aren't doom and gloom casual Houston fans, or worse, the national media haters. We love our teams and root them on, but also try to discuss the ins and outs of them without too much homerism. Keyword here, try. Welcome returning listeners and welcome new listeners to what my brother calls the Paul Broadpod Ball Blog. Hey brother, check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience, or the full blog experience depending on your interpretation there. We are recording this transmission here in sunny LA, where I'm joined as always by my co-host and co-producer, the Roz to my Frasier. Carla, the dog, is here with me. Technically, she's outside of the studio today, but she has the capability of coming in. So heads up, listeners of the pod know that she may get on mic from time to time. She's got the hot takes on this podcast. On this episode today, we have Houston Astros opening day roster projections. We revisit some of our Astros season preview. Cam Smith. We got big Cam Smith news, the Houston Rockets on their way to the playoffs, the Texans' free agency grades and offensive line worries, and we even take some time to stop by Dynamo Corner to talk some football. That's right, folks, we got a packed episode today, but this is breaking news. Well, not too breaking. We're trying to get on mic as soon as we can, but this just happened here. We just got the news over here. Cam Smith, the aircraft carrier, is going to be on your Houston Rockets opening day roster. Big news. There's a video, I believe it's from Ari Alexander. There's a video of Cam talking to the media after learning that he made the team. He's definitely feeling the emotions at that moment because his mom was the one who got to tell him that he was making the opening day roster. It would just be waterfalls, like in the movie Scrooge, waterfalls. I would be boo-hooing if that was me. So definitely an emotional moment for Cam Smith, but just a beautiful moment. We're all rooting for him here in Houston. What a great day for Mr. Smith. We are all rooting for Cam Smith here in Houston and at the podcast. But what does this mean, Paul? What does this mean? Cam Smith is on the opening day roster. I talked about it in previous podcasts. I've written about it this spring training. Cam Smith playing outside of his mind is not anything new. We kind of saw the writing on the wall that Cam Smith and Zach DeCenzo were making a huge push to make this opening day roster. So let's get into it. So I have been on record to say that Cam Smith being on the opening day roster, that means something bad for roster construction. And, I kind of still stand by that. I think that, we want Cam Smith to be successful. I'm not rooting against Cam Smith finding success. It's just that this man was just traded for. He was not, part of the outfield projections, I believe. I believe they thought he was going to play third base, perhaps. So the fact that Cam Smith is going to be asked to play right field on a major league level when he's only played 32 games in the minor leagues does raise some questions for me. This is not to say that I think Cam Smith can't do it or he's not talented. I have full faith that Cam Smith can be a great player in the league. It just, from my perspective, I have so much love and admiration for this player that I want him to succeed. I don't want the team to put him in bad spots that might kill that confidence, that might kind of change the trajectory of how he breaks onto the club. So, yes, I am kind of hand-wringing over here. I am worried. Normally, I'm the person to tell you the calmate. Today, I'm having to tell myself that a little bit. And this is coming just from the perspective of I want Cam to succeed. I want him to succeed because I know he has talent. I know he's good, but I just have some concerns. I feel like the team putting them in the position to learn how to play right field while also learning how to hit major league pitching, it could be a little bit of a learning curve. It's not like I'm this Cam Smith scout that has seen every game he's played and I know his game from back to front. I'm not going to claim that. That's here at the podcast. I don't like to make myself and my opinion out to be more than what it is. So it's more of a concern that if we have him out there learning the position, learning how to hit on a major league level, if he doesn't start off strong, that could be difficult. Because I don't know if you remember this about your Houston Astros, but sometimes this team starts off embarrassingly slow. They start off the season, and March and April are rough for your boy. I'm on here on the podcast telling you to calmate. I'm on here on the podcast showing you the Houston Astros official panic meter. If the team starts off slow, it could be stressful for Mr. Cam Smith and manager Joe Espada and general manager Dana Brown, because we've seen this before. We get a player, remember Jose Abreu. Jose Abreu was coming to the team. He had a good track record. He, had won an MVP. But obviously there was some regression to his bat speed. There was some regression in his game. And putting Jose Abreu on a powerhouse lineup like the Houston Astros was supposed to cover Abreu so he could kind of figure it out, make some adjustments, and kind of adjust his hitting to the next phase of his career. That was kind of the plan, giving Abreu enough coverage with a powerful lineup that he doesn't have to stress too much. However, that didn't exactly work out. I don't know if you remember this, fans, and I hate to bring up a bad thing, but when the Astros as a whole struggled, and Jose Abreu was the one struggling the most on the team, it put the spotlight on him. And even for a veteran player, making those adjustments with the spotlight on you when the team is expected to succeed, the pressure is heavy. So for a young man who is going to start feeling the pressure of learning a new position, feeling the pressure of completely jumping AAA ball to play in the majors, that's going to be a lot of adjustments. That's going to be a lot of pressure. And if the Houston Astros, their lineup, if the Houston Astros lineup cannot cover Cam Smith and give him that space to learn and grow, that's really going to put the spotlight on Cam Smith and put the spotlight on if they're going to send him back down or what the move is going to be. If they're going to move him to third base or what's going to happen to help Cam Smith. So I'm not saying that is going to happen, but this lineup is significantly projected to be weaker than the lineup that Jose Abreu joined. So I am calling on the Houston Astros lineup to be patient, to not just swing at everything, and to help cover Cam Smith as he is learning and as he is adjusting. And I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but Cam Smith starting in right field would mean that we have two outfielders technically learning the position on the fly at the major league level with Jose Altuve and Cam Smith. Jake Myers is going to have to do a lot of running and a lot of field generaling to get the job done, I fear. So those are my concerns. So let's talk about some happier things. So Cam Smith obviously can mash. This guy has hit home runs in an Astros. He's hit so many home runs in an Astros jersey so far, and he's barely even worn one. So this guy obviously can rake. He looks good against spring training pitching. He looks like a number one prospect. He looks like a guy that I seriously can say Cam Smith is going to be an all-star player in this league. Book it, save the receipts. I'm saying that now. I'm saying it. He has that potential. I could see him doing that. However, he will have to be covered by the Houston Astros so that any kind of step sideways or step back he has can be successful. So I brought up an example of the lineup not covering a hitter. However, this could very well be like JP3. Instead of pulling the negative aspect, maybe the positive side is what if this is Jeremy Pena? Jeremy Pena was brought up after Carlos Correa was lost to free agency. I was wringing my hands about how good is this kid gonna be, and he showed up and he impressed. He learned a lot. He did have a bit of a sophomore slump. He has taken a little bit of lumps in the league, but the guy is obviously a professional player, and you're buying stock in JP3. So we're hoping that will be the track that Cam Smith is on. I couldn't bury the lead. We had to talk Cam Smith, but let's also talk some other Astros roster moves that kind of led to this Cam Smith decision. Earlier today, John Singleton was officially cut from the Houston Astros. This has been news that we knew. Big John was informed by the team that he would not make the club. And today the corresponding roster move hit. So this was tough for me. So, I'm taking some lumps today on the podcast now that I'm thinking about it. I said Big John was definitely going to be on the team. I didn't see them moving away from him unless they were feeling really confident about the Zinzo and Smith. And, I definitely played it conservative, saying that they would keep Big John. They obviously didn't do that. I was wrong. And honestly, pour one out for Big John. I wish him all the success in the world. I really hope that he finds a home and rakes and hits some John Homerton home runs. And I hope it isn't against us. But we do. We're Big John stands here at the podcast. We love him. He's a prodigal son. I'm glad he was able to come and play for the Astros. I think that fans, he definitely was beloved by fans, but I think fans never really understood his game. He was such a good person in the lineup. I hate to see him go for this one reason, and it's that he is a patient hitter. He takes a lot of pitches. And this was a lineup last season that swang out of their shoes all the time. So I was always looking for more patient hitters. Having a patient hitter that can work a walk and a pinch hit is big. No disrespect to Mauricio Dubon, but that's not exactly his game. Mauricio Dubon puts the ball into play. Victor Caratini is a pinch hitter that comes up with a big hit or a home run. But sometimes, you want a guy in there that could pass the baton in certain situations, especially in playoff games. I'm not saying John Singleton was a perfect example of that, but he did bring that to a team that didn't have too much of that. This season, Isaac Paredes is hopefully going to bring a lot of vision to the club, seeing that they've lost Alex Bregman and John Singleton, who were the top vision, had the best vision on the team last season. So, we're definitely going to miss Big John in that regard. I think he also fielded first fairly well. It's a hard position to take. So, John Singleton not being on the team is definitely all signs are pointing to Zach DeZenzo being the backup first baseman this season. So we will see how that goes as well. But we miss you already, Big John. Ben Gamel was also released. Left-handed hitting Ben Gamel was released from the team. Was able to go find other places, other pastures. Guillorme was also informed that he was not making the opening day roster. He's still with the club at the moment, I believe, but that probably could change as there's a lot of news coming out today. We also have Castro, relief pitcher Miguel Castro was informed he wasn't making the team, and Logan Van Wy was informed that he wasn't making the team, and that is how you pronounce his name to my knowledge. I looked it up, I did all the research. It looks like Logan Van Wy. Why? I don't know, but that is what it looks like. And you know what, folks? I get pronunciation wrong all the time. I'm just saying I did look it up. I did try. That's what it says. So we also have, a lot of, a couple of position battles still clearing up here before Thursday's game against the New York Mets. So let's look at our roster here for your Houston Astros and what we're looking at here. We have the rotation. Obviously, La Grasa is going to be our ace. We also have Diesel, who's going to be our number 2. So that's Framber Valdez and Hunter Brown. For those of you who aren't up to date on your nickname game, La Blancura is going to be 3rd. That's Ronel Blanco. And Spencer Arrighetti is going to be our number 4. And going into the season, Hayden Wesneski is going to be our 5th starter. I don't have a nickname for him yet. Haydeners ready. Wesneski is what we'll call him. So we'll see how Wesneski does. I have a feeling he's going to surprise a lot of Astros fans. I feel like he's going to have a good season. If nothing else, the Astros are really good at taking pitchers, making subtle adjustments, and having them just absolutely find their groove again with the Houston Astros organization. He could be another person added to the Cambio game. Cambio gang is what I'm trying to say here. A lot of change-ups happening with the Astros lately. I have a feeling he's going to come with the change-up. We'll see how he does as well. The bullpen, the way it's been shaking out, we obviously have Josh Hader, Brian Abreu, Taylor Scott. Other players that were told they were making the team is Brian King, Rafael Montero, I believe Luis Contreras, Okert, and we believe the last spot's going to go to Ryan Gusto. I'm sitting over here looking at as news is pouring in, more Cam news is happening. I'm getting I'm getting all kinds of texts coming in. So yeah, we're kind of also, as this is happening, I'm looking up things. So we have Caleb Ort on the injured list, starting off on the injured list with a left oblique injury. His expected return is TBA per updated March 4th here. He's Forrest Whitley has a left knee bruise, a contusion injury. His expected return is TBD. I don't know the difference between TBA and TBD. I'll have to get back to you on that. But they have different delineations there. Christian Walker is injured right now, but he is expected to be back by opening day. So we have those injury updates there. In other transactions, Jalen Beeks, left-handed pitcher Jalen Beeks, was granted his release. We also have oh my goodness, yeah. I should not have looked at my phone. I have so many notifications now. I'm having to to keep scrolling away. The Houston group chat is definitely really excited right now. But anyway, Brian King, Steven Okert, Luis Contreras, Rafael Montero. Let's talk a little bit about your bullpen really quickly here. I'm really high on Brian King. I really like him. Steven Okert is definitely, a lot of pundits have been really high on him. And Rafael Montero. Let's talk really quickly about Monty. The Astros are paying Rafael Montero. A lot of people might ask, why is Rafael Montero getting the bullpen spot over somebody like Logan Van Wy? Why? Logan Van Wy are we using Monty over the young kid? So I think really the reason is that the Astros are still paying Rafael Montero. So they're thinking if he has anything left, we're going to give him one more shot. And I think if Montero doesn't have a good couple of months, he can see himself toiling away in the minors until the season is over. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying the team has really liked what he brought this spring. For me, the games I was able to fully watch where he was pitching innings, not just, I watched all of the games that were televised. I watched all of the recaps that I could for spring training because me, I like to watch all the games so that I might not be a scout, but I'm a fan expert if nothing else. And Montero for me, there were moments he looked really sharp and moments he just worried me. So we'll see what Monty brings. I'm not saying that this is a huge mistake. I think the team is playing it conservatively and seeing if they can get anything more out of Montero before they have to just move on completely. I think Logan Van Wy is gonna be brought up fairly soon if any of these relievers don't really step up here. And I feel good about them. I feel like this could be a really good bullpen here. We also have, so for Ryan Gusto, that final bullpen spot that we were talking about, he would be more of a long relief / six starter type of a player. He was he's a number 21 prospect. So we'll see who actually gets that spot, but all the talking heads, everybody's saying it's going to Gusto. So we'll see how that plays out. Let's talk about our locked-in starters. Obviously, catcher is going to be Yanner Bach, Yanner Diaz. First base, if all goes well, Christian Walker should be back by opening day. That's what the injury report is saying. So we're penciling in Christian Walker there at first. We're putting DeZenzo there potentially as his backup, as a little safety net in case Walker isn't ready. We have shortstop La Tormenta. We have JP3, Jeremy Pena at short. We're hoping that he's really had a great spring. His swing is looking good. We're hoping that his defense improves. He kind of gets those yips out. Those yips are out. He doesn't have any defensive issues. We love JP3 here. Third base is going to be Isaac Paredes. Isaac Paredes is... I'm very excited about him. He might not have the defensive capabilities of Alex Bregman, but I think he's going to be a very patient hitter. He's going to see a lot of pitches and hopefully do a lot of damage at Daikin Park. For left field, we have, believe it or not, Jose Altuve. I think a lot of people are really worried about Altuve. It's so funny that they're so worried about MVP Hall of Fame player Jose Altuve, and nobody's thinking twice about Cam Smith, who's played 32 minor league games. I'm definitely the inverse of most Astros fans on the internet. I think Jose Altuve will be fine in left field. You want him to be a Hall of Fame left fielder. That might not happen, but I think he is going to be able to make plays, and I think over time he'll be able to learn left field to actually play away games at left. I think it's just going to take some time for him. I'm not too worried about it, though. Our DH is Yordan Alvarez. He's Yordan. He's going to do Yordan things, and I'm very excited about it. Center field, Jake Myers. This one might hurt fans, but his defense, he's going to be next to Altuve and Yordan in left field, and potentially Cam Smith and DeZenzo in right. That might, Chas McCormick might be the odd man out already early in this season. So the fact that you're going to have this lack of experience in the outfield means that they're going to want a field general kind of center fielder in Jake Myers to be kind of helping everybody be in the right positions. for these position battles and injuries here, first base, obviously, we talked about. I think the Zinzo should be the backup here, but, there is that kind of little nagging feeling I had, last season. I wanted more Yainer Diaz at first. I kept saying, like, we have all these options at first, but Joe Espada and the Astros are so hesitant to play them. So it's like, is this going to be a thing where Caratini and Dubon get more reps at first? Or will DeZenzo be the backup? We will have to see. I'm really unsure, but I'm really hopeful that Christian Walker is ready and healthy for opening day, because the Astros desperately need first base to find some stability and slugging. I can't wait for it. It's been some years, folks, since I've not had to stress out about the first base position with the Houston Astros. At second base, I'm calling Brendan Rodgers as the opening day starter, in a sentence that no one would have expected last year. Even if I said this in December, I think y'all would have burned me at the stake at Memorial Park. But after the defense of Guillorme and Rodgers, we saw this spring. I saw the tea leaves. I figured the front office is betting on Rodgers to find a swing again and going to use Dubon more as a super utility guy in his more traditional role instead of as a kind of everyday second baseman. So I think he will platoon at second. And if Brendan Rodgers finds some struggles, you'll see more Doobie in there, that's for sure. But I think to start the season, they're going to go with Rodgers. That's, they went with Rodgers over Guillorme because his ceiling projects to be higher. He does look incredible in years past, but, we will have to see what Rodgers brings. Guillorme was very flashy with the leather out there in the middle infield, but he just wasn't flashy enough to demand a look. And speaking of demanding a look, we're talking about right field now, folks. We talked about Cam Smith at the beginning. Let's talk about right field. The two loudest candidates for the starting job, obviously, are Zach DeZenzo. You know him, you love him, Cam Smith. I really think that if Cam Smith makes the team, which he did, I was like, if Cam Smith makes the team, he is going to be an everyday starter. Joe Espada was very clear. He didn't want a young player on the team unless they were going to be getting everyday reps. You don't want a player full of talent and potential sitting on the bench if he could be getting AAA starts. So I think if Cam Smith, they're telling Cam Smith, he made the team, and we're seeing all this media about it. Cam Smith is your opening day right fielder. I don't see any other way around this. I think if he wasn't your opening day right fielder, he'd be your opening third baseman, which would really shift everything around and not make a lot of sense. I guess you put Cam at third and Isaac Paredes at second, but then why do you have Rodgers? There's so many things, like Cam Smith being on this roster definitely, it means some of the flexibility they were going for in the infield. It's just an influx of infielders there, or a lot of people that can play infield, I should say. But we will see, folks. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Houston Astros, Houston Texans, Houston Rockets, Houston Dynamo, Houston everything, Houston born and raised, H-Town Rebel Space Cadet Sports.
Wow, folks, we have a lot to talk about today. That was a long time until my first break. We have a little bit more Astros. We're going to get to everything. Don't worry. Don't stress. Don't fret, my pet, as Urkel would say. The Astros preview. We're looking at our Astros here to get their season started against the Mets at Daikin Park. Get used to it, folks, now. I'm not going to dead name it here on the podcast. 3 games against New York Mets starting on Thursday, folks. A team that the Astros are familiar with as they played them a lot this spring, but that also means the Mets have the same, feeling we do. We've seen this team a bit. On this series opener, we'll get to see Juan Soto with the Mets, the brunch game on Thursday. We got an early game, so get up early, take the day off of work, officially or unofficially. Quit there if you have to, and get ready for La Grasa to go up against Clay Holmes with the New York Mets, the 31-year-old ace for Mr. Met here, after spending the last couple of seasons with the New York Yankees. And, oddly enough, Mr. Holmes hasn't started a game since 2018. However, don't get too excited. He is the opening day starter. A lot of people feel good about this player. People are saying that this cat could be a Cy Young candidate. So we'll see if the Astros can make it difficult for Holmes to make that positional adjustment. The Astros will also most likely face off against Tyler McGill, and a familiar face in Griffin Canning, who left the Angels this offseason and now plays for the New York Mets. After they play the Mets, the Astros will play the Giants for a series where they'll most likely miss an opportunity to face off against Justin Verlander. But, that's yet to be determined. But that's, I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to go. Let's go ahead and move on to your Houston Rockets. That's right. Last time we talked, they're definitely, we were on a winning streak the last time we talked, and sadly, that winning streak has ended. They did beat Miami 102-98 in a win, and where Amen Thompson was officially back with your Houston Rockets, but then they lost 116 to 111 in a loss to the jokerless Nuggets. But the key here is that Amen Thompson is back, and he's feisty. The Rockets have an 81.2% chance of the 2 seed in the Western Conference. That's per Basketball Reference. I'm not a mathematician, but those odds seem pretty high. If I had an 81.2% chance to win something, I'd probably place the bet. I'm not. This is a comedy podcast. I just want to make this clear real quick, folks. I'm not giving you financial advice, so don't do that. Don't throw your money away because a podcaster said so. Don't be a fool. But I like those odds, is all I'm trying to say. I really think that the Rockets, have made some distance here, and we'll see where they end up. There's some basketball left to play. They are playing Atlanta at home on Tuesday. They're at Utah on Thursday and have back-to-back games against Phoenix and the Lakers a couple days after that. Can the Rockets get back to their winning ways and mix Thompson back in while dominating the Western Conference? In this stretch of games that I just mentioned, I can see them going 3-1. But this team has some tough opponents to close out the year, and we'll have to see how the young team finds their footing and confidence going into the playoffs. Let's talk about your Houston Texans and my boy, Nick Cap Savio. We all know Nick Caserio is called Nick Capasavio on this podcast. That's how it goes. We all know that. I don't have to remind you that. What I do have to remind you is I forgot to mention is a good day, mates, to my Australian listeners. Oh my goodness. Good day, mates. Sorry for the, oh man, they probably all tuned out. All the Australians tuned out because I didn't wish them a good day, mates. But back to Nick Capasavio here. He has made a couple of moves. He signed offensive tackle Trent Brown from Bastrop, Texas, and this guy is huge. This guy, I saw a picture of Trent Brown, and I thought that there was photo editing done. I thought that it was a Photoshop job. This dude is 6'8", and 359. He's almost 360, 6'8", 359. He's a big boy. I definitely would not want to run anywhere near him. He makes other football players look minuscule. He's an ex-Patriots guy with a Super Bowl ring, and he can play both tackle positions. So, obviously the Texans need some offensive line depth. But more than anything else right now, we're looking for the Texans to have some offensive line starters. Pardon me, folks. I didn't have the cough button ready. But we're looking at the draft, or we're looking at trades for your Houston Texans. I think they're going to make some moves to get the guys potentially, and I'm hoping, like guys, more than one offensive lineman during the draft. That is what I'm looking for here. The free agency grades for the Texans have been generally D's and F's from pundits everywhere. And I hear that, but maybe it's the fact that I didn't think that the Texans could do much of anything this offseason. So, I'm impressed that we got what we got done. However, I do understand the criticism. I'm not trying to be a complete homer here and hold Nick Capsavio's hand as we both get ice cream. We're not besties. We're not friends. I'm not trying to defend him because he's my homie. I understand the criticism that we have. But, we had a bad offensive line last season. And seemingly that line has gotten worse. But, this is my moment for a huge calmate for you. I want you to remember that they don't have to trot this offensive line out today to protect CJ Stroud. See, if this was a scenario in which they had to start the season today, then yeah, I'd give them a D, I'd give them an F. This is not going to work. However, this line is still a work in progress because, let me check my watch, it's late March. We still have a summer to go before they have to play any kind of football. So if you're grading based on the line that would have to play today, then yeah, sure, give Nick Caserio a D or an F. But for me, the grade is more of a incomplete. It's a more, I need to see you in my office after class. I can see that, I want to see you put a little more effort into this before I grade you on this. I want to see where you're going. I think you need some more time. I have a feeling. Just call me Will I Am, because I have a feeling. I think that all of this hate will disappear when we see what the final offensive line will look like. I think it will look much more complete towards the end of summer. I don't know what grade that will be, but I feel all of this clickbaity, hot takey society has got all of y'all riled up. So I'm going to tell you, for those of you who don't speak Spanish, instead of giving you a calmate, I'll tell you, calm down, my clown. Moving on, before we end up this podcast today, we do want to stop by Dynamo Corner. That's right, we don't just talk about football. We talk about football as well on the podcast. Your Houston Dynamo finally, they had a point before. The Houston Dynamo got a point in Seattle, fighting for dear life in a 0-0 draw. The biggest takeaway for the game, besides Ben Foster, kind of willing to shake it up a bit in a way of football philosophy, is that backup goalkeeper Jimmy Martyr left with an injury in a game where he made his first Dynamo League start. So that was definitely feeling bad for Jimmy Martyr, and the goalies of the Houston Dynamo seem to be a little haunted right now. Blake Gillingham made his MLS debut in the 67th minute when replacing the injured Martyr. Gillingham had to step it up in the game and keep Seattle at 0, and was man of the match for really playing his butt off. I'm getting a call right now from the Dynamo to ask me if I know any goalies, or if I'd be willing to just stand in the goal for a couple of hours. We'll see how the Dynamo work through these injuries, but it's yet another bad omen for the disheartening start to your season for this orange team. They play the Portland Timbers Sunday night, and well, I'm praying for a draw, but maybe I'll be surprised. Your Houston Dynamo are 0-3-2 with 2 points on the board and 13th in the standings currently. Psst, that's out of 15. That's out of 15 for you MLS fans. It's still early, but ugh. And lastly, the ladies of the Dash won their first game of the young season with a 2-1 win over the Chicago Stars FC. They are 1-1 with 3 points. Doing better than the boys right now, guys. They play Gotham FC at home on Friday. Definitely looking forward to watch a little more Dash this season, especially if the Dynamo goalies just keep getting hurt. My goodness, we have to do something to break that curse. Definitely, if you're out there and you're kind of being, generally miserable, hateful human being, maybe mix it up. Maybe you're the curse, try to act like you got visited by 3 ghosts and change your ways. We got to mix it up because that Dynamo team is struggling, folks. And with that being said, that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. I want to thank you for listening to this podcast. Please smash those buttons for me: like, rate, review, subscribe, share, kick it, pop it, skip it. All of those buttons really go a long way to help this podcast out. We are a small podcast and we only go as far as our listenership takes us. We are supported by listeners like you. So please share with other H-Town hustlers, other Houston sports fans. Go check out the Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com, where you can put your email into that field. You get every podcast, every post, every meme sent to your email box for free. Or you could download the Substack app, search Space Cadet Sports. You see that little orange astronaut, you hit subscribe, say that you want notifications instead of emails, and you have a fully mobile app with Space Cadet Sports, and I absolutely love that experience. You could also read other writers on that as well, so it's efficient, folks. You could go ahead and check that out. You could also comment, leave any messages, let me know your takes, folks. Let me know who you think is going to be the next Dynamo goalie. If you're a Dynamo goalie and you don't like you don't like this, I apologize. Let me know how you're feeling. We could definitely kind of get some good energy going your way. Folks, thanks so much for listening to the podcast. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos Houston.